So, Karen, thank you for taking the time. It's really wonderful to be back here in your studio to talk about your upcoming exhibition at the Weston Art Gallery, and in particular, to speak to our Docentitos a bit about your experience as an artist and your journey. And maybe could begin where you might talk about where you first developed an interest in art and when you knew you were going to follow the path of becoming an artist.
Okay. I think I was really young. I think I might have been 4 or 5 when I did a drawing of Thumper I think it was from Bambi, and my mother kept that drawing, and I think, I saw it for several years, many years, and I don't know where it is now. I loved art as a little girl, and when I was, I think, in about 5th or 4th grade, the art teacher at my elementary school called my parents and said, I think if she can have some lessons outside of school, that would be great, because I see a lot of potential. And I took classes at the Columbus Museum of Art on Saturdays, and they were classes for children. And I got to do sculpture and painting and drawing. And then in high school, I took art. I remember telling my high school art teacher I wanted to be a fashion illustrator. And he said, well, I think that's pretty rough. That's a rough business. It's very commercial. Because I think I always liked clothing and fashion as a teenager. And then I majored in art in college at Miami University. And it's just been that way, ever since. I've always been, I did try some other jobs, like teaching art. I taught elementary art for a while. I was a designer, a graphic designer for a while, and I was in retail. But I finally went back to graduate school and got my degree, in a master's degree, and then I was able to teach the college level, college classes in art. So that's pretty much, that was my path. Then once I was teaching, I continued to do my work. And also, I think I was in my late 20s, late 20s, I started dancing with a group. It was called Improvisational Dance, and this was in Columbus. And it changed me. I loved it. And I even thought about going back to school and getting a master's in choreography or, some kind of dance. And then I realized what I really needed to do is be a studio artist, what I wanted. But I continued to dance, and that experience of dancing, and dancing with my husband, we do ballroom dancing, and we've known each other since high school, and so we've danced for many years. And that idea of space and movement in space, I know affects my artwork. When I was in graduate school, I had a teacher who introduced me to installation art. And a lot of you might know that installation is where you create an environment in a space. It could be outside, it could be in a gallery, it could be in a stairwell, it can be anywhere actually. But you're creating like I said, an environment. I'm not selling individual objects or showing individual objects, because you don't necessarily have to sell your work. But when that was introduced to me at Ohio State in graduate school, I loved it. And this idea of making was almost like thinking of it like set design. And I think it's because of the dance that I was thinking of creating objects that people could move through, and lighting, and even having sound. So that's when I, started thinking about, this is what I want to do. This is what I love doing. And I did that for like 30 years, and I'm still doing it in different ways. Yeah, so that's my path. Yeah, I think I always loved to draw, and I taught drawing at Kenyon College for 22 years. And when I was a designer, I was doing like advertising design, I had to think about placements of elements on a flat surface. So that flatness, if you want to call it 2D quality of drawing and 2D design, that was a big part of my development. And then, of course, this idea of being in space as a dancer. So what I like to do is play with the intersection of flat surfaces and three-dimensional spaces. And so that's what's happening. I feel like this could almost be a painting or a drawing. And so like when I set it up, I stand right in front of it and I imagine these different parts relating to each other. But then I like to do things on the back of objects as surprises. So if someone wants to walk around and just see what's going on in the back, there might be something on the back of an object, a surface, that is totally different. When I do my painting, I'm often creating, it's almost like I'm building space. I'm building from the back of the painting outward, and then also from the bottom up. So the images that I have in my paintings look like structures quite often, and something that's happening to these structures, and this, moment or event. I like to just start with materials. So if you saw all of my studio, I have tables that are full of all kinds of wood scraps. I like working with wood a lot, and of course paint. But I work with fabrics, and I work with glitter, and I work with sequins, wire. So this whole idea of what's called materiality, it's like the material in the artwork, is important to me because I like handling those objects, supplies, and putting things together that wouldn't be necessarily expected to be together. These unexpected combinations. I mean, my work hasn't always been this intensely colored. And I went through a phase where I actually did a show at the Weston Gallery, and the whole room, the whole gallery was painted sort of a muted olive green. And I did a drawing on the wall, and then these little paintings, these vignettes, were more, I guess you could say, earth tones with photography. And it was addressing my father's role in World War II. And so that worked for that subject matter. But now I seem to be doing work that is, I like using intense color. I like energy in the color. I have to be careful because I could, that I might use too many colors at once, but then I'm very interested in chaos and finding order in chaos. And I use a lot of yellow, and I don't know exactly why, but one reason I like it is because it's a color that can be a symbol of joy and energy, but it can also be very acidic, and it can also imply caution. So it has these different sides to it, the way we see it, and just depending on the way it's presented. The movement, like we were saying earlier, is related probably to my understanding of moving the body and gesture and so forth. And so I think it just happens naturally. And my process is to, sit down, even if it's something flat rather than something dimensional like this, I'll sit down with a variety of paints and I just start making shapes and marks on the paper or the canvas or the board. And I let things just sort of develop on their own. I might, do a lot of drawings before that, but I rarely, do a drawing and then try to reproduce it as a painting. This piece, I was making these individual sculptures and I was just, setting them on a table. And I thought, well, what if they just sort of became this community? And I think a lot of my sculptures, these individual smaller sculptures they can have sort of an anthropomorphic, meaning, almost like human or almost like animals. They can have that quality. And so they're suggesting something that's going to move or it's going to relate to another sculpture nearby or something up on the ceiling. So anyhow, this piece I started saying, okay, how can I make something that is this event or this community, whatever it becomes. I didn't know what it would be. And someone might interpret it differently than what my intentions were. So, yeah, and it's still developing. There's still, going to be some tweaks and probably some changes.